It's exactly 9 days to the inauguration of the president-elect and the vice president-elect, Ahmed Bola Tinubu and Kashim Shettima. And of course, Abuja, we understand, is already buzzing with a whole lot going on to have that historic day. But what is interesting is that on the 25th of May, it's a Thursday, the president-elect and the vice president-elect will be conferred with national honors by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari. The president-elect will be conferred with the national honor of GCFR, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, and of course, Grand Commander of the Order on the vice president-elect. As we look at that a bit, the undercurrent on the leadership tussle in the National Assembly, the next National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, is still on, and that will also attract our attention today. But most importantly is the fact that a new Federal Executive Council is in the offing with a president that will be inaugurated on May 29. How will all of these impact on governance against the background of how the last 8 years has been is a major talking point. But before we get into the groove in today's program, let's quickly look at some of the trending political stories we'd like to share with you this Saturday morning on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun. Let's get started with our paper's headlines as we look at some of the trending political stories. Okay, we've got the Saturday Sun, and it says, North resumes bid for Senate presidency, put speakership, deputy Senate president as second option. Speakership race, I won't step down. That's is saying is talking there. All right, so let's look at the next one. A whole lot to look at from the Saturday Sun. This is from First News. Zamfara Governor, EFCC chairman's rift deepens. The governor of Zamfara State is now accusing the EFCC chairman of asking for bribe to the tune of $2 million. That's just a few days after it was alleged to have stolen 70 billion naira from a state as poor as Zamfara, ravished by banditry, ravished by poverty. Well, these are allegations that needs to be proven, and that can only be done in a court of competence jurisdiction. Let's move on. Okay, that's still on First News. We have Abia Court nullifies governor-elect Otis' candidacy, declines to cancel his election. All right, so that's something to cheer about for Alex Oti in Abia State from the Federal High Court's decision. And now we'll look at the leadership weekend. Tension continues to rise in Plateau over killings in Mango. And you just wonder, when will all these senseless killings stop in Plateau State? Perhaps when the new government comes on board, they probably will change the strategy and the structures and the personnel to have a turnaround in all of these issues. Let's move on quickly. Yeah. Okay, that's on the weekend leadership or leadership weekend. Top story there. We'll look at Osun defender, food crisis looms over stunted growth in crops. All right, and let's move on quickly. Yeah, let's just be quick about this. On the Punch, FG outgoing governors in last minute 3.7 trillion naira contract bazaar appointment spree. Quite an interesting one. What more can we bring you on the top stories on the political scene on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio? Let's look at the next top story, yeah? Tribune says INEC is fighting proxy war for Tinubu, Atiku tells court. All right, Labour Party primaries illegal, Kano court declares. You want more of these stories, get a copy of the Tribune, yeah? On the Daily Trust, it says concerns over rising number of children killing parents. All right, major issues that shaped 9th House of Reps. Yeah, that's on the Daily Trust. Yeah, what more can we bring you? On the Vanguard, 63,111 killed in Buhari's 8 years. And that's talking on insecurity. And this one says why INEC can't defend Tinubu's qualifications, Atiku, Obi called Sean's Apapa's lawyer. More on these stories, get a copy of the Vanguard. That's the most we have for you on the paper's headlines as we look at some of the top trending stories in the political scene on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. And I will go straight to our panelists in the studio. From my extreme left, I'd like to thank very especially the Executive Director of African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, Reverend David Ogolo, for joining us. Thank you for coming. We also have with us here the Executive Director of Canvassers for Democracy and Rule of Law, Pastor Olu Martins. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We have with us here as well Barrister Issa Elijah Wike, is a politician and also a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to all the viewers and listeners. I know that you are in for a wonderful time.
Okay, let's get cracking. Reverend Lumati, let me start off with you. 9 days left for the present administration to tail out. And it's just an opportunity for us to look at where we are coming from, where we are today, and where we are going with the new administration expected to come on board by May 29. That's just 9 days away. What are your major misgivings about how the country has been under the present leadership, and what is your expectation from the incoming administration in terms of the constitution of the Federal Executive Council, in terms of the constitution of the leadership at the National Assembly, which is a major reason why there is war of words, lobbying, movement, and what have you in the country right now. We've known that over the years at the Senate, the leadership of the party in power, they always have a way of just getting things done in their own way. But at the House of Representatives, it's usually not so easy. Let's get your take on all of this.
Thank you very much. And let me quickly thank ITV, like I always like to do, for the opportunities that you give to us to dissect the very burning issues as far as our body politics is concerned. Again, let me quote Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry was the one that said that the collective freedoms of the people cannot be guaranteed as long as the actions and inactions of government is shrouded in secrecy. And the fortune of the estate, the media helps to put these very thorny issues in the front burner. Very just now, I'm reading that the North is saying that they want to focus on Senate presidency because all of the back and forth that the media has, put, in the fore. So injustice and all of those things. So let me thank ITV, at least as far as those states is concerned, for trailing, the blaze. A few days ago, I put something on my Facebook page wherein I said, among several other issues, that the transition from one administration to the other ordinarily should bring joy. But for me, I don't know how to put it, because ordinarily you should be excited that President Muhammadu Buhari, whom, in my own very candid opinion, his stay in these 8 years, in my own opinion, had been an unmitigated disaster, as far as I was concerned, because the expectations were high. I watched with nostalgia the day the president took out of office, and I saw his clenched fists. All right, I'm sure that Reverend Ogolo, as if when you clench your fist, it means that this thing is going to be, when you say Aluta forever. And I watched and I heard his statements. I'm for everybody, I'm for nobody. I said, wow, this guy is going to hit the ground running. And we're all going to have a fair representation of what governance should be like. But 8 years down the line, and I'm not talking about my opinion, I'm talking about all of the public indices. Debt to GDP ratio is in the negative. Our borrowing, as we speak today, is it 42 trillion? Insecurity and all of the other things. People are trying, for instance, not to tell doctors not to go abroad. You want to promulgate, you want to a law that says doctors shouldn't. And I'm like, okay, ordinarily, why should people want to go abroad if your own country provided you the environment for you to practice? How many doctors from the United States of America or even Ghana here will come to Nigeria? A time was where we had Ghana must go, because Ghanaians were here. Okay. All Ghanaians have gone back, and if you go to Ghana, they now have the same sack that they call Nigeria must go in the same Ghana. So if your country is doing well, you have no business going there. So instead of us to fix the country, we are saying doctors should not go anywhere. Okay. So for me, it's a mixed feeling. I should be excited that at last, we're moving away from the heydays of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. With all due respect, he tried his best. Like the songwriter says, his best was not good enough at all as far as Reverend Lomatis is concerned. But then, when you now also look at the processes that led to the emergence of the incoming president, you should be excited because when you are showing a new administration, it actually should be Christmas. It should be public holiday. The reason is because democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Okay. But the issues that have been thrown up by virtue of this election, you mentioned just now that Abuja is agog. I don't know if Abuja is agog. The people who are preparing for the handing over are busy. But Abuja is sleeping. Okay. It doesn't look like much, is happening because people feel that the process is not about whether Tinubu emerged or not. It's called democracy, and she's got a twin sister. It's called the rule of law. If you had followed the processes, it wouldn't have mattered if a pig emerged. Would have said the pig, deserved. As long as we feel, that's why we say that it is not just free and fair. It must be seen by all to be free and fair. Unfortunately, this election is not seen by all to be free, fair, and credible. So until those matters are, disposed of, I think that people are just going to say, well, I'm not sure that is the kind of, administration that, I, voted for, because people are saying that the votes didn't
let me come to you quickly and talk about the issue of governance. When people are elected, fundamentally, is about entrenching governance that will make life more meaningful for the people. No doubt the last 8 years, 7 years plus as a matter of fact, has not been so rosy. But I'm sure there are still some other areas where we can look at and say, okay, the present administration may not have done well in this area, but they've done creditably well in these areas. In terms of governance, I'd like to get your perspective and then look at the undercurrents of Constitution of the Federal Executive Council, the Constitution of the leadership of the National Assembly, because these are necessary ingredients that will help the government of the day to impact on the lives of Nigerians.
Thank you, my brother. First, I want to thank my colleague. He's provided a kind of a very basic analysis of what the people on the street perceived. And one of the things that I normally want to allow the people to understand is that you can't have it all. That's the reality that we face today in the country. The 8 years of Buhari that will end up in the next 8 or 9 days, there's up and down. And if you recall that even within this administration, Nigerians were calling for President Jonathan to recontest. And I can assure you and put it on record that in the next 4 years, people would imagine that if the constitution can be reversed, Buhari should return back. The reality is that we have to be very careful in running down a conclusion on any administration. Buhari has his worst time, but he also has his best time. So what are the best time and what are the worst time? The reality is that you can't, every administration that is in power need to know when to move forward. In Buhari time, we had the first time in history the petroleum industry bill was passed into law. That never happened before. That was a radical reform in the
oil and gas sector. Okay.
And then within Buhari time, we also had constitutional review that happened. The thing that happened in this ongoing National Assembly that will be concluded very soon is unimaginable. The truth is that it's not easy, governance. It's not easy. So what has happened in the last 8 years is that Nigerians expected so much But the reality is that Nigerians themselves need to take responsibility. It's only when you are given the opportunity, like what has happened in this last election, that has informed the culture of cynicism. People feel disappointed. That's the reality that we face. So what can we do to change the story? Is for people to understand that they must take responsibility to hold government accountable. So when Buhari is in power, what happened? What was the decision of the people? How did the people respond to Buhari's government? So the things we will have to look in terms of governance index: 1, constitutional review. I said it is only Buhari's time that that happened. Then the major source of income for our government in the last 30, 40 years is oil and gas. It's only Buhari that have decided to radically reform the sector. And that's what you have seen, the petroleum industry bill. Is the petroleum industry bill that was passed into law, is it a perfect one? No, it's not a perfect one. But was there a law to radically reform the sector? Yes. So, if you look back in the last 10, 20, 30 years, so if you look into the indices of governance in terms of law to reform the sector, in terms of system to put in place to reform this major source of income for the government, Buhari did it. Do people believe in Buhari? No, but that's the reality. Then in terms of the election, if you look at the election, you agree with me that no president, just compared to Obasanjo's time, Buhari never get himself engaged. As a matter of fact, Tinubu, who won the election, if he has his way, he will put Buhari in prison.
Why are you so certain about that?
Yes, because Buhari nevered. He nevered. He was so clear about free and fair election. Whether you implied, that's another thing entirely. That's another thing entirely. So we should be careful in the way we run analysis. We should be careful how we expect people to act. But the most important thing is that election has come
And it's gone.
and gone. And we're expecting a new president. Our responsibility is to put in place an agenda. So what are the agenda? What do we see? What do we expect? I think as public commentators, we should first look into what Tinubu have assured Nigerians. Whether court process is going on, we expect that if the court pronounced today that Tinubu is not the president, you and I will move immediately. You know, we are like there's all part of the good transfer. Anyone that comes, that's our rule. We don't care.
Okay. All right, let me pause it there. Barrister Issa, quickly give us your perspectives on the aspect that concerns the constitution of the Federal Executive Council. When you hear people talk about the shortcomings of the present administration, is basically tangential to the quality and the capacities of those who had the opportunity to be at the Federal Executive Council. They try as much as possible to exonerate the president from all of these shortcomings, saying that majorly it rests on the tables and the shoulders of those who were given these responsibilities. Let's get to take along those lines.
Well, my view is like that of what happens in the courtroom. You have the judge, you have the litigants. And somebody asked the question, who is really on trial? Is it the plaintiff, or rather the claimant, or the defendant? Is it the the prosecution or the nominal complainant, or as we used to call them, accused persons, who is really on trial? Or is it the judge? The truth is, the litigants know the truth. The accused person knows the truth, or the defendant, as we now call them. The nominal complainant or the prosecution witnesses, they know the truth. The only person who does not know what really happened is the judge. So who is on trial is the judge. So,
so
question now is,
all these people are trying the judge. That's what you're saying. That's what
the judge. So we are not living in the moon. We are all living here.
Yeah.
So what happened in the past 8 years? It's not, all of us, we have our own experiences. For me, I think that if Buhari should be judged on any basis, for me, I don't think that when he was sworn in, I was not expecting economic prosperity. I was not expecting roads, or I was not expecting...
So you were not expecting anything?
I was not expecting all these things, but one thing I expected, and I said that this is the basis upon which Buhari should be judged. After 8 years, me and you were witnesses. The major thrust of the Buhari campaign was anti-corruption. So, between me and you, how do we score this administration? It's not about railway. Railway was started by PDP. It's not about the electoral reforms. Yes, we can say kudos. He tried. There were electoral, there's the new electoral law. We brought the beavers. And of course, if the beavers had been operated, I'm sure many people wouldn't have been operated the way it ought to be operated. And according to the expectation of the people, I'm very sure that everybody would have said, oh, the elections were good. So I'm not talking about the election. I'm not talking about some universities were also established, polytechnics, law schools. Some roads were constructed and all that. But let's bring Buhari to the court of anti-corruption. How did you fail? So I think that is the best way.
So in your assessment, how did he fail? Did he do well?
Yeah, that is why I give the allegory of the judge and the litigants. So we all know. So who is on trial? I don't want to say anything about that because we all know what happened.
Okay.
Because I think, if I may just venture to say this, I'm not sure there is any regime where people stole about 120-something billion and later stole another 70 or so billion.
So that's a record. It's a record.
That is
a new record.
For me, that is record breaking. Well, he was caught and was charged to court.
Yeah.
But when Buhari came into power, if you will remember, for the first 2 or 3 months, people were afraid. People were afraid to take bribe. But thereafter, like my brother said, he came with a strong fist, like power. I'm coming seriously. Okay, but question is, what happened to all those who have been corrupt in the system? So people want to know. So now, what are our expectations? The expectations of this new regime for me, and we should affect the choice of people to be put in several ministries. Should be firstly, one, which is basic, and this I believe is the expectation of the people. Also, I believe that when Tinubu's regime comes to an end, these are the 2 things that people will want to use to judge him. Number 1, security. So I believe that, and I think that the first thing he should do is to sack all the service chiefs, including Inspector General of Police, and bring in younger people who will be fearless, people who believe in this country. The NSAS protest and the way the young people went about this election has made us to know that there is hope for this country. Young people believe in this country. Given the choice, they don't want to leave this country, they want to remain here. There are people like that, you know, in the police, in the army, in the navy, in the air force, who are willing to make their sacrifices for the growth and for the betterment of the ordinary people and of this nation. So I believe that the first thing they should do is to sack all the security chiefs. And, you know, for the police, it should be embarrassing to all of us as Nigerians that policemen on the streets, they take, they mount toll gates, I call them toll gates, and collect something like 100 naira.
Yeah.
Like my children told me, that is somebody's father, and maybe somebody's grandfather, taking 100 naira on the street. So I believe that the best thing to do is to, you know, put some energy in the Nigerian police, and beef up our security
structures. Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'll come back to you. Yeah, Reverend Martins. Yeah, the National Assembly is very, very key in helping to shape governance. I mean, the legislature all over the world has that responsibility. But we're seeing all of the hustlings going on now. Some names are being put out there. In fact, the party, the ruling party, the APC, has come out categorically to say these are the people that we're putting out there. But some of these guys have very questionable characters because there are allegations here and there surrounding them. What quality of people should we be looking at in that direction?
Thank you very much. You know, usually when we do some of this analysis, we have people who are listening to us. I remember Bland Bartimaeus, there was an attempt to defame Jesus Christ. They said, look, that guy is fraud. Guys, whether he's fraud or not, I can't tell. All I know is that I was blind, now I can see. So as far as governance is concerned, and with all due respect to what my respected elder brother has said, the PIB bill, the electoral, the constitutional amendments, and all that, the average man is asking, in 8 years, has our life been better? Because the essence of governance is to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people within the shortest possible time. Is to protect life and property and to take care of our welfare. And if we cannot answer in the affirmative whether our life in 8 years has been better, it means that there's a problem somewhere. Because all of the policy drive must trickle down to the average man. That's why government in societies, other societies, exists to protect the weak and the vulnerable. Because the rich, quote and unquote, and maybe some of us on this side, we have enough and we know enough to protect ourselves. So if police probably stops, say, Sunday Duke, now you, I was in a hurry, you can explain something, they will let you go. So ideally, government should not exist to protect the rich. They protect the children, the vulnerable. And the guys who are listening to us on the street, like he said, we're going to allow them to judge. But I speak for them that in 8 years, the life of the average Nigerian has not fared any better, if at all anything. And the indices are there, whether it is inflation. And I don't even want to speak plenty English. Let's use bread. How much was bread 8 years ago? I bought half bag of rice just a few days ago, half bag of rice. I think I bought, was it 19,000? Half bag of rice. Now, if they are cooking that rice now, I'm in the kitchen. We must measure, because that half bag of rice now, there's plan for how long it will last. And you can look at tea bag, and on the average. Unfortunately, is that we are told that more than half of our population are poor. Nigeria is the headquarters. And it's not something that happened years ago. It happened in this administration. It is the headquarters of poor people. So talking about the character of the kind of people that we want in government. You know, I told somebody before, I said, if my father had sent me a wife and I had no feelings for her, no matter what she does, it won't matter to me because she's not my choice. No matter how good food she cooks. And that's why, except we deal with the issues of the processes of an election, a government will suffer legitimacy. What is legitimacy? Legitimacy is that we have accepted that this is our government. The reason is because no government can be successful without the active participation and collaboration of the people. ITV cannot be successful if people who work with ITV do not consider themselves as a part of ITV. You can't be here all the time. These wires are fixed by people. If this guy feels that they are not part of the system, you just come, some wires are missing. And then we begin the issue of who stole the meat from the cooking pot. Nobody will account for it. So government, everybody must feel that this is part of their government. It is when government, if anybody feels that the government enjoys legitimacy, because government can now build a road. Have you not seen places where government will build a road? People will come and destroy the road at night. You remove manholes because people don't feel that this is part of their government. And that those issues must be dealt with. Talking about the national assembly, I listened to the interview from the former governor of Zamfara. And I said, you see, and that is that's how the majority of our leaders are. Zamfara, 92% of Zamfarans, if you put it that way, are poor. I mean, they are the poorest of the poor. And then that president or that governor, former governor, is declared for Senate president. And a few weeks before his declaration, he went to a book launch and gave between 250 and 300 million. The present governor now, there's a back and forth. He didn't say before now that EFCC asked him for $2 million. All of a sudden, because they say you have been accused of 70 billion. But they are not alone. They are everywhere. Yeah. If you look at the character, at least if the news is anything to go by, the person that APC has thrown up, and indeed I do not understand, it will have just been fair enough for the senators to determine who their Senate president is. Mm-hmm. That's what has gone on before. Before now, we didn't know how Chuba Okadigbo emerged. We didn't know how Adolphus Wabara, emerged. We didn't even know how David Mark, emerged. It was an internal thing. But after Bukola Saraki, that coup that Bukola Saraki did, the ruling party is becoming more active. Mm. But I would have thought that you would have allowed the senators to choose, because like Martin Luther King says, people must be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The person that you have thrown up, who is Godswill Akpabio? What is his history? Both as governor of Akwa Ibom and as minister of Niger Delta. I don't know if NDDC has been constituted as we stand. But if his recent record is anything to go by, and the NDDC, in terms of his modus operandi, has fared worse under Godswill Akpabio as Minister of Niger Delta. This is without prejudice to the crisis he's had, even his own emergence, because he participated in two, primaries. We don't even know that he participated in the senatorial primary. We know that he participated in the primary. So when you have those kind of characters, what role models do we have for our children? Many of us are motivational speakers. And when we go to speak, who do we quote? We can barely find a Nigerian leader to quote. Who do we quote? We quote Martin Luther King Jr. We quote J.F. Kennedy. We quote all of those guys who have built a foundation for their nation by the characters. But here, we take the worst. And out of the worst, we now pick the very worst and ask him to lead our people. And then you ask more intelligent people to follow the less intelligent people. Clearly is that if APC goes by this process, we would have a Senate even worse than the Senate that they said was rubber stamp. And I'm praying to God that in 4 years, that there will be no administration. In fact, Reverend Gola has given me a prayer point. I'm praying that there will be no administration after the expiration of that administration, that we say Buhari should come back. That means that administration, that means that they will send half of us, they will first of all send half of us to hell. I don't think an administration can do worse than Buhari's administration. Because if he says another administration will come, he's trying to say that we have not seen anything yet. It means that the one that is coming will do worse than Buhari. So for me, that's a national prayer point, and I will recruit some pastors to join me.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Ogola. Let's really get back to you. As we march towards May 29 and the expectations of a new government, my interest here is that globally, you have Nigerians that are making tremendous impact. I mean, the pool where the likes of Obi Ezekwesili came from, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala came from, Dr. Adesina came from, there's still much more. David Ugolo came from, Olumatis came from, even Barrister Wiki came from. There's still a lot more where we can also get up. Why is it that it's so difficult? I mean, I heard now a former governor is all over the place wanting to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the president-elect is not even looking that way because they've had some issues in the past. But if he's got the capacity and the ability to deliver in that ministry, what stops us from me, from considering him?
Governance is not just about good people. It's about even good people trying to have a strategy to place themselves in position of power. So even civil society, I tell people, I said, if you can't be at home and then they put you in position, you have to be organized. The reality of the fact is that Tinubu is the president-elect. As we speak, people are engaging him. Even the people who think they are good people, are they engaging him? It's the bad people you think, and it's perception, and it's relative. So if the good people don't engage him, it's not the people that come to meet him. It's like you, Sonny Duke. You have your list of people you invite for meetings, for platform like this. It's the people that are in your phone that you will invite and that your management will approve. The people whose telephone number is not in your phone or the management will not be invited. And then somehow the people will grumble and say, why is it that Sonny Duke is always inviting Olu Martins? Why? But the reality is that if you have what to offer to the public and you meet Sonny Duke and say, Sonny Duke, look, your analysis, this is my position. And Sonny Duke analyzed it and say, this thing is really good for the public. Sonny Duke will invite you and say, come and tell the public. And I know that you will not deny anybody. If anybody call you on the phone and say, I've got something, next Saturday, I want to come and offer it to the public. I know you. You will say, please come. Yeah. Because you need new ideas. The reality is that the so-called good people are not organized. And I speak from my constituency, civil society. Do you know that the civil society are the most disorganized? In terms, they live in a crab world. Pull it down. But the politicians, they are organized. So, when you have a constituency that cannot get themselves organized and put themselves in a position and put their issues in a position. I recall when Comrade Adam Oshomole was a governor in Edo State, I personally invited him to Naomi Garden and brought civil society in Edo State together. And the man told the whole world that the next people I will hand over to, these are the people. In Naomi Garden, the president of Nigerian Labour Congress was there. The deputy governor of Ogun State government was there. When Oshomole said, the next people I will hand over to, these are the people.
And you don't think that was a political statement?
No, you don't understand. Listen, what I'm trying to explain to you, if a man make a public statement, what do you do with it?
You hold him.
You hold him accountable.
Exactly. And after that, you know what happened? The civil society in Edo State imploded. Will you blame the man? Tinubu is coming to become president in May 29. If you are not organized, he will not listen to you. He will not.
Okay.
So the reality is that as civil society, as a constituency, you must get organized. It's just like our friend today now, Bogbodi. He has decided to contest as an election as a chairman of a local government. I, David Ogolo, will campaign for him. I will raise funds for him. I will appeal to the government.
Why are you there? Because he's a member of your constituency.
Yes, I will lead the campaign for Bogbodi because if he becomes a chairman of that local government will see what it is for a civil society to be a leader.
All right, let's get your take quickly as we get set to open our studio lines so we can take some calls on the program Policies Today on independent television and radio. In appointments, particularly in the post-election era, it usually comes based on who worked, who didn't work. It's always a case of where man they work, nine they chop. That's what we see play out in politics. Must that always be the reason and the basis for appointment, particularly in a society like ours, where we know that in every sector we have people that have distinguished themselves, that have the capacity to make an impact, not necessarily politicians?
Well, I think that is the general perception, but I don't think that is correct. Let me just talk as a politician. Political appointments rather, they are not necessarily given to people who worked, but they are given to people you trust. If you want to succeed as a governor, there are some key positions. The finance, for instance. You have to have somebody you trust. Let's say, for instance, when Buhari became the president, that was the first tenure. Who was the Minister for Finance? She came from nowhere. Was she there during the campaign? No. But eventually she was appointed. So appointments are not necessarily given to the people who worked. So the politicians actually give especially key positions to people they trust. And then those who worked are given positions with loud titles, but without any content.
This man is a great man.
So that is
They are giving loud titles.
Loud titles.
Loud titles.
Then they give you very senior special assistant. Something like that. And they give you loud titles. They can give you they can even give you minister for works, but the person who will be doing the work of the ministry will be the SA to the president. So that is how it works.
Wow.
So, like I would say to the incoming president, his major thrust of campaign has been, well, I've done it in Lagos.
I can replicate it.
So what we are saying now to you is bring in the people you trust, let them be in power, and let us see whether you can turn Nigeria
to
Lagos, as you said. And I think that apart from security, the next thing, the major thrust of this administration should be the economy. And looking at the economy, I don't want us to look at how much is used to do this or that, but the gauge should be this: how much is coming to the common man on the street? How empowered is the common man on the street? And that will make me to say this, which is that it is not by giving people employment in the civil service that we help the economy. It is by looking at men and women who have ideas for businesses, people who have little ideas or great ideas or concepts about how they can form their own companies, and let the government give them grants and donate huge sums of money, or
Okay.
as much as they can, and then I believe that with that.
All right, Regola, Reverend Olumatis, you've been itching to react to some of the points. I've been seeing that. So let's quickly get to react to some of these points before.
Firstly, is the issue of a constituency. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with a constituency.
Okay.
It isn't because there are pastors that I will not vote for. This is my constituency. I won't vote. I won't work for them because their history, the things they do now and the things they have done. If they take public office, I won't work for them. I have a brother. I won't work for him. He's my brother, but I will not work for him. The reason is because I know his strengths and I know his limitations. There are people, there are civil society people who have occupied public office in this state. Not only have they not remembered their constituency, they have not remembered, if you like, the people who are the arrowheads of that movement. I don't know how much people remember David Igolo, and some of them are currently in public office. They are civil society people who organize committees, who run big institutions. I don't know. There are people that remember. I've not been able to talk to in 1 year since they were appointed into a certain...
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? It's Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. Be kind enough to turn down the audio level on your TV set just to remove the echo. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. This is USA on the line.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I appreciate what you guys have said so far. But one thing I want you people to understand, there is a point we are all missing. Like, there is no way you can build an economy of a nation whereby the only thing that defines the economy is just crude oil and agriculture. When you hear of secure economy in Europe and America, this is the origin of what? The making of so many electronic gadgets, such as what? Radio, television, computer. Which one are we making, my dear? Here is a country that cannot make wheelbarrow, not to talk of knockout. There is no way we can have a strong economy for now, because those who are even in charge of our country, apart from what we are to remember, we can't see beyond that. At times people you think they are experts, they will tell you according to this, according to that. No, look at the circumstances on ground.
Okay.
When you are talking of economic experts, we are talking of people who can look beyond what they were told. People who can look at what is on ground,
Okay.
look at the realities, and look at how generally the economy is organized, before we can talk of a defined economy that can give jobs, security, and wealth for a nation.
Okay.
But this is not the case in our country. Therefore, if you are expecting a good economy, condition number one is this: patriotism. When you love your country, you are ready to go extra mile.
Okay, USA, thank you. We've got to cut you there so we can have more callers contribute to the program. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? And let us know where you're calling us from. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, my name is Brad. I'm calling from the name.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, please. I just want to comment on what you are saying, and I want to commend your guests here, all of them that have been talking there.
Thank you.
They are speaking the minds of the people. Now, Reverend Olumaki said something. When you are talking about development, you are talking about the impact it has in the lives of the people. Now, we are saying that the government should churn out policies, programs. Now, what are these policies? What are these policies done in the lives of the people? What are these translated to?
Okay.
The man on the street, what is the price of bread now for a year? What is the price of bread now?
Okay.
Right? And everything. So please, when we are talking like this, and I want to commend your panelists here, we should look at development in return in terms of the human development. So please,
All right.
we should tell the next.
Thank you. Thank you. 0807777 0300. That's the number, yeah? So please dial that number and let's get your take on our conversations today on the program. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? Good morning. Please always endeavor to turn down the audio level on your television or radio to remove the echo. 080-7777-0300 is the studio number. Let's get your take, caller. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Abraham Izwagie. I'm Apostle of the Living God.
Okay, Apostle, please go ahead with your contributions.
Okay, first of all, I love your analysis. They are really the mind of the people. But one thing I most like to contribute here is let's look at the things what our leaders are really meant for us. Now we have another change of government after 8 years of saga. My contribution is where will we go from here? What will this administration coming in? What do they have for us? And what are the promises on ground? Who is there to enforce it and who is there to bring it out?
Okay.
Who is there to speak for the people? And who is there to deliver the people? My thing, if you can buy that of 38,000, if you can buy fuel at what we buy at 87 when they come in, now is 210. What we did in that government, and they threatened to remove subsidy, which you from the Duke, you know that this I'm saying the truth.
Yeah.
So we speak for us.
Okay.
I am calling on you from the Duke. God bless you.
Okay, thank you. Our time is fast, but Olubatin, quickly anchor the point
Yes,
you're making.
I just wanted to say that I like his point of trust when you say the people that you trust.
That
we must define trust. Is it the people that you trust to serve the people?
Okay.
Or the people that you trust to
serve
your
you?
interest? I remember I was going to the Student Union president. Osakede Moses interviewed student political eggheads. I was new. I was a pastor. There were several names like Emmanuel Luso, a couple of them. And he asked them a question. I haven't listened to all of them. Who do you think will serve the student interest?
Better.
And they say, let's be fair, that guy, if he knows serve also, because he's not a politician, but he will serve the student
interest.
Better. So I must give credit to Osakede Moses for thinking that way. We must have that kind of thinking. We must bring people from outside because the country is in tatters as it stands from all dimensions. So I'm just saying that the issue of trust must not just be to serve your party's interest, but that you trust this person to serve the people's interest and to deliver the much needed dividends of
good
democracy.
Quickly talk to us about key areas, the key agenda points for the incoming administration.
First, there is concern. There's legitimacy concern that the election process was flawed. So there's a perception problem for this incoming.
That needs to deal with first.
He has to deal with that challenge. And then secondly, the economy is in a bad situation. Our external debt is in a very bad situation. He has to show to Nigerians that he has the capacity to turn it around.
Okay. All right.
And then finally, he has to assure Nigerians that they have to trust him. And in trusting him, he has to avoid bringing Lagos to Nigeria. What that means is that in his appointment, in his appointment, putting people in position, he has to think as a Nigerian president,
not as a Lagos person.
As a Lagos person. If you do that, there will be a problem.
All right, quickly, Pastor Isa. Finally.
Finally.
Final word.
Finally, today is my daughter's birthday. I want to say happy birthday to my daughter.
Yes,
she's a lawyer
like
me.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to you. You get my pretty and precious.
Yes, we should take you home from here.
She's not in Nigeria, she's in New York.
Let's quickly. Hello, Kola. Good morning. What's your name?
Yeah, we join you to celebrate a bit.
Yes, please go. Yes. Okay, Comrade Obaze, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to quickly contribute to the...
Go ahead, that's why I said she go ahead, go ahead.
For Tinubu, I want to say that I will go with the analysts there that are on suit that said we should give Tinubu the benefits of that.
Okay.
And also allow him to choose whichever persons qualified, that he thinks is capable. He has done it before.
Okay.
We should leave him, we should use him in a frame, and all he needs now is our support.
All right.
Some of the panelists there do not believe that Tinubu won the election or Tinubu is supposed to win this election. People like us, we voted for Tinubu, we campaigned for Tinubu because we believe in his vision.
Okay, so let's keep our fingers crossed and yes, keep our fingers crossed and see what it brings on board. Yeah, I mean, all things being equal, we keep our fingers crossed and see what it brings on board, right? Thank you.
Talking about who he chooses for Senate presidency or who he chooses for Senate presidency, if you watch also Akpabio well, he did well as governor of Akwa Ibom State. He has been minority leader and he has chosen to align with the philosophy of the majority of the APC,
okay.
the ideology. And if you watch when
Tinubu is a smart man. You want him to, he knows what, he wants to rule, he wants to deliver.
Okay, that's our time today on the program. I want to say big thanks to everyone that made the show a success, beginning with our panelists here. Reverend David Ogolo, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Once again, happy birthday in arrears. I mean, your wife turned 50. That was a golden celebration.
Thank you for making it.
Congratulations once again, Ngozi Ogolo. Congratulations. Your story is such a sweet story.
Yeah, sweet one. You know,
okay.
You know how we started.
Okay, Reverend Lumati, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for attaching me to this. My daughter is doing birthday. I've been thinking about to eat breakfast, but I provided a soft landing.
That's our package today on the program, Politics Today on ITV Network. We hope you had a great time with us today on the show. Be sure to join us next week, Saturday, at exactly 10:30. A fresh installment is in the offing. Till then, stay blessed and bye for now.